Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of What Grandma Wants You to Know. And my dog has just decided to go after something. Don't know what. It could be a bee, it could be a leaf, it could be who knows? Sometimes it's invisible and we don't know what it is, but she goes after it. So we'll hope that she will be quiet for basically most of this video. And so I came up with some things conversations that I'd had with my own grandchildren um, many times, just for the heck of it, because that's what we do when we're grandparents. We give unsolicited advice. But let me show you. I got a page of them. Oh my gosh! See, I've done my homework this week. But I thought I might start giving you a little bit of a story every time I do this, and not particularly about me, not particularly about anything really, but the way it was when I was a kid. I'm 70 years old now. Catherine, by the way, 70 years old now, and I don't wish for my childhood, but I think about my childhood quite a bit, and I do think, what were the differences? Okay, what were the differences? And the biggest difference is that, of course, we didn't have social media, and we did not have so many of the things that you moms, that's my husband right there. He thinks he's being funny, but you can see him. Earlier, he said he might come out with no clothes on. But he does have his clothes on. And he's coming out to have his coffee out here on the porch with me. So, one of the things that we were able to do, and I've mentioned this one before, is we were on a cul-de-sac, and there was 36, 35 kids. So there was 12 houses, if I'm not mistaken, and we ran like crazy little things all over everywhere. And I was there. Oh, I don't know. I don't even remember moving into the house. So there you go. But everybody who came along after me, and I had four siblings, they were born in that house. So, you know what? Maybe not my next sister down, but the other three were. So, on to the story. We all had record players in our garages. Now, we lived in Texas, and a lot of this happened in the summer, and it was hot. Not hot like it is now, and I can't quite figure out why it's so hot now, but it's hot. And somebody's cat had always had babies because nobody thought about taking it to the vet or getting it neutered. Nobody thought about any of that stuff. And so here we are, all these kids. And a lot of times it might have been just the girls, and the boys were out doing whatever boys do. Mostly it was depending on the season. Maybe it was football, and never basketball because nobody had a basketball hoop. And the two big sports in Texas are, of course, baseball and football, Friday Night Lights. So we would go in, we would listen to records in our garage, and sometimes we would dance and do our version of karaoke, and it was really quite fun. They were all crazy. It's my very best way to tell you this, but most of our fathers worked shift work, and we weren't really supposed to be in the house a lot of the days because they were sleeping. So we would play the records, or we would play Monopoly. Generally, every last one of us had a kitten on our lap, and we were holding the kittens and loving on kittens like you do. And we were just not overstimulated, which is an interesting thing because this is something that I notice about kids today, is they're overstimulated. And it is an interesting viewpoint from someone my age whenever someone's child goes ballistic in the store because they want something, or well, mostly I guess because they want something if they're in the store. But the mother, as a general rule, just tries to pamper the child into behaving again. Because I don't care where you are in history, it's embarrassing when your kid goes nuts in a store. And what I do notice about a lot of them is that they're treating their children as adults. And they're saying, well, what do you want? Well, what can I do for you? What is something that can really, happen so that you are comfortable? And if this happens, or if it ever happened whenever I was a kid, I can guarantee you it didn't happen when I was a kid, because my mom had the 1, 2, 3 system. 1, 2, 3, and you better be done by 3 or something was going to happen. Now, we didn't really get spanked, so that wasn't going to happen, but my mom had what we called the orca eye, and that orca eye was going, and you knew to stop doing that. So I'm not advocating take your child out and spank them or anything like that. I am advocating take them out, take them home, and give them a nap. That's what I am advocating. Or time it better whenever you have to go out into the stores. Kids don't enjoy stores like you do. You can maybe walk through and you can not pick something up, but for a child, that's not something they understand. What they understand is generally they get what they want. So you really should keep this in mind. All right, on to, there's the story right there. The story of my childhood. Non-stimulation was the goal of that whole thing. But we did have fun, and periodically I do run across all of my childhood friends, and we remember what it was like to be in that situation where you just had to entertain yourself, and your mother wasn't going to entertain you because she had stuff to do. Generally take care of other little children if you were an oldest child like me, oldest daughter. So let's go on to some of the things that over my 70 years I've figured out. And it is a lot of it I figured out by watching, because I was put into some situations. The earring is not hanging correctly. I was put into some situations just to watch, and that was cool. So the first one is, when you're winning, keep your mouth shut. And in the time of social media, people don't keep their mouths shut. They talk about everything that's going on with them. And one of the biggest things that they've going on with them is that they are making thousands of dollars a month. So, okay, I hope you really are making $1,000 a month, but the way your house looks and the way that you're dressed, you're not making $1,000 a month. So you're not really winning. So really and truly, if you're in this situation, be quiet. Don't tell people, because there's somebody who's going to come up and say, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're doing this, and you're fat, and you're ugly, and how can you do this? So there's going to be somebody who's want to come and take you down. So if you're winning, keep it to yourself, all right? Tell your children, keep it to themselves. Because there's going to be someone who's going to come into your life with a tremendous amount of negativity, and I don't know why, but for some reason we listen to negativity before we listen to positivity. So keep that to yourself. Keep that to yourself. I absolutely learned this lesson huge watching people whenever I was working, and they were absolutely making sure that people saw what they were doing, and in the meantime just sort of showcasing what they weren't getting done. So that's the thing. If you're winning by not by anybody else's standards, but by your standards, make sure that you don't share it out. It's just easier that way. Just make your life a whole lot easier. Keep your plans private. If you plan to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds, don't tell anybody. Just get about the business of doing it, because there's going to be somebody who's going to correct you. Somebody who's going to say, I thought you were on a diet. You can't eat that. Why are you eating that? there's going to be somebody who's going to point out to you that you are not living up to your goals. So keep your goals private. If you want to go to Paris, make plans toward that and keep it quiet. That way nobody can kind of rain on your parade. All right, keep it quiet. Why is it so hard to keep things quiet these days? Why do we broadcast over social media what we're going to do? And we think it's because we're setting that goal out there. But what you're really doing is setting up a goal to be humiliated. So don't do it. Keep your plans private. That was a big deal when I was a kid. And grandparents knew how to keep things quiet. They knew how to keep things quiet. Parents knew how to keep things quiet. You never discussed money. You never discussed anything like that. That was something that was private. So maybe we need to return to that somewhat. So pick of these of which you think you can do, or you hate all of them. Hey, it's all good. Never expect to get what you give. This is a tough one because we've all been raised, my generation was raised, to think that if you gave everything that you would get it back. But invariably you did not. And let me tell you why. Because you, as the giver, attract the takers. And that's kind of tough. That's kind of tough. Now, I'm not saying don't give. I'm just telling you, don't give with expectations. Because chances are you are just not going to get back. Now, and in today's world, let's talk about this. Friends. How many friends do you have on your Facebook? How many friends do you have on your TikTok? How many friends do you have on your Instagram? How many friends do you have on your YouTube? Your life is filled with friends that aren't really friends. Now, for the friends who are nearest to you, if you take an experiment and you stop making the first text of the day, you stop making the first phone call of the day, you stop making all first steps and see who falls away. Those are takers. You have ceased to give them what they need. And so they're done with you. They're done with you. And it frees you up. Sure as heck does. Frees you up. You'll find your life a lot less free of drama whenever you do this, because you will know that they aren't in your life anymore. And it's okay. It's okay. And here's something that probably I should piggyback on with that, but it's further down on my list. But let's see here. It is... Oh, no, it is right under it. This is... Sometimes what you are holding on to so hard is what you need to let go of. And this is so profound in that it's hard to let go of what you want. And if you're feeling like the hero in your life because you're helping out all these people, you might try letting go of that. And like I said, this is a piggyback onto the one that I just gave you. It's just let go. Just let go. Now, as a mother of adult children, that is the hardest lesson that you will ever learn in your entire life. At this stage, I do not talk to my children every day. I talk to them a lot, but I do not talk to them every day. And I do not expect from them a history of everything that's going on in their families. I do expect from them, if you're going out of town, just tell me, okay? That's what I really, really need to know. I give them very little advice. And what I usually tell them and my grandchildren is, if you want to know what will soothe your throat during a common cold, I'm your girl. But if you need to know how to solve a problem with your family, I'm not your girl. Because the world is so different today that my advice would be coming from a place of historical value, and I just really don't know, that it's any good. Okay, so that's one of those things. But it is a profound thing to let go of something that you want to hold on to so badly. And of course, adult children are one of those things. You want for your adult children to be happy. You want for your adult children to do well. But hey, you can't. Now, that not only applies to adult children, it applies to BFFs, and it applies to somebody that appears to need your help every minute of every day, and they're actually taking up a tremendous amount of your time. So sometimes you just have to let things go. It applies to goals, it applies to dreams, it applies to anything that you might want that you feel like you should have, but you're not getting. Just let it go. And if it's meant for you, it'll get there. But sometimes the hardest thing in our lives is letting go of something that we thought was so very important to ourselves. And that's kind of a tough one. Tough. But again, advice from a grandmother, somebody who's been there, done that, and you just gotta stop. Sometimes you have to stop for your own well-being. You'll never get what you want unless you're grateful for what you have already. This was a lesson learned, and I think I'm going to say this correctly. Use it up, wear it out, or do without. It seems like there was another one in there, and but this was something that my childhood was full of. Now, the fancy word for budgeting now is thrifting or thrifters. And I grew up in a time where budgeting was everything. Again, I've mentioned this before. My dad worked, my mom did not. 5 kids. And everybody on the block was like that. That's why we had so darn many kids. So you had to patch it. You did. You had to sew things up that had a hole in them, or you weren't going to have them anymore, or you had to make your own clothes. My mother was a genius seamstress, and she made the most beautiful clothes. And we never wanted for, I can't even remember back picking out clothes, because all of a sudden it appeared in the closet. And I did have to sort of share it between my other sister, who's just 2 years younger than me, about the same size. So, and that was cool, but really and truly never, ever would I have thought to say, hey, can I have this? I just knew it was going to be there. And that's something that probably maybe some generations right now aren't experiencing enough. You can darn a sock. It's pretty darn simple. You put a ball in the sock and then you darn it, and you just pull it around. Maybe I'll show you how to do it one of these days. But it's a good skill to have. But the better skill to have is to understand that you don't need everything you think you need. All right? You don't need new clothes. If you have, we're going to go back to the three thing. If you have clothes that are laying on the floor in your bedroom, you do not need clothes. If you have mounds and mounds and mounds of wash, you do not need new clothes. You don't need new clothes. You don't. You need to make sure that you're beginning to think a little differently, because things are coming our way, I think, that are going to make people very unhappy if they don't change sort of the way they look and go into a more antique sort of way of thinking. People are often put into your life for a special reason, and they are always taken out when that reason is done. And so it's an interesting thought that people come into your life to help you out, and maybe sometimes you think you're helping them out. But in my lifetime, there were a lot of people who were there when I needed just I was having a specific issue, and sometimes that issue lasted years. I needed them, and then when the need was gone, basically so were they. And it wasn't a horrible experience ever. It was always just sort of a fading, and things worked out that way. So people will come and go. So you need to know and appreciate when that happens, and when it's time to let them go. When it's time to let them go. All right, let's go down to this one. When you start doing what's best for you or what you want to do, you're going to make a lot of people unhappy. That's a big one. And some of you probably have already experienced that if you're looking to make some changes in your life. Okay, so here at 70, I'm just weird. I'm just weird. Okay, I don't have to hide the weird anymore. I don't have to go to work and pretend to be normal, which is really a debilitating thing to have to do. I can just be weird. I can just be weird. I can wear weird earrings. I can wear weird clothes. Nobody's really looking at me anymore, so I can do what I want to do. And that's going to get you people who will leave your life and be made unhappy because you're just not willing to follow the rules or follow their rules. I think that's probably a better way for me to say it, follow their rules. So if you're following someone's rules and suddenly you stop following their rules, it's very, very, very interesting. And a lot of you don't even follow the rules of people you know. You're following the rules of influencers are people who are telling you how to make cough drops in a formal gown. Crazy stuff. But you don't have to follow anybody's rules but your own. And that's an okay thing. All right, that's an okay thing. I read a little thing today that you get one summer with a baby. You get 3 summers with toddlers. And it went on to show you that your time with your children was short. And so whenever I had my kids, and of course we were in the military, and so there were no grandmothers around, there were no aunts, uncles, anybody to help out. But what you did do, you had friends, and you made friends pretty quickly, but you also... Okay, so there is Magnolia barking in a big way. I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm going to end it here because this isn't going to stop. Somebody just drove up. So I'll complete this video in another time. But please, if you want to make changes in your life, great. If you don't, well, that's great too. Have a good one.